Maybe you, like me, have had some unlikely friendships along the way. I was thinking about this week of different people the Lord's put into my life along the journey of life, and some of those has been uncharacteristically different people than I would have thought the Lord had put in my life at that moment. My last class in seminary, when I was working on my master's, I was driving back and forth from Summit, Mississippi to New Orleans on Saturdays. It was an odd class, so I was trying to wrap up. The class met on Saturdays, and because of that, there were some bivocational guys in the class who had other jobs, secular jobs during the week, and were trying to earn a seminary degree. And on my first weekend trip down there, a guy pulled up in a vehicle that I didn't know how he was able to get to New Orleans because there was a Mississippi tag. I didn't think this truck was capable of getting to New Orleans from wherever he was in Mississippi. And so he and I struck up a friendship that morning. I asked him where he was from, naturally Mississippi, me being a Mississippi boy, and we began to converse. And he was an older man. He was in his late 40s at that time, which I'm rapidly approaching. Some of you are like, he ain't an older guy. His name was Marika McKenzie. And so I said, Marika, look, why don't you, if you can make it to Summit, he was coming from Jackson, Mississippi. I said, look, if you can make it to Summit, Mississippi, you can get in the vehicle with me, and we'll just commute together back and forth. And so we did that. So the next weekend, we were riding together. We were coming back across Lake Pontchartrain. Marika said, hey, if you will stop up here at this next exit, there's really one exit on Lake Pontchartrain. There's a great restaurant there. If you're ever down that way, Middendorf's is the name of it. You need to stop and eat catfish, by the way. It's a selfless, shameless plug there. He said, but beside Middendorf's, there's a place, and I want to buy a coon. I said, like a raccoon? And he said, yeah. And I was raised in the country. I'd hunted coons before. My grandfather had coon dogs. I had just never known of places that you could walk in a place of business and say, I'd like to buy a coon, and they had coons for sale. And so we pull up and we walk in this little shack, because I'm going to witness this. I'm not staying in the truck. I get out and going in like I'm going to buy a coon. And Marika says, I'd like to buy a coon. And the lady said, how big a coon? And I'm like, oh, there's coon options in here. They got it going on. So she goes back behind the counter in this freezer and pulls out 3 coons, frozen coons, and lays them on the counter and says, which one do you want? He said, I'll take this one. So the rest of our conversation home was about how to cook coons and how his family enjoyed eating them and those sorts of things. It was an uncharacteristic time in which I'll never forget. Marika is still preaching the gospel to this day, and the Lord put us in a relationship with one another, friendship, and taught me some things about the world that I didn't know. You can think of stories in your life, people that you've met along the way, and situations that you've been in that were just unlikely for you to be there.